Welcome everybody. I am delighted to be here. I'm really excited about this piece. I just thought that this is a delightful thing to do, given that Hamilton's been with us since the get-go as a peer volunteer and assistant, quietly in the background, often giving very wise advice in his way with a sort of little wink of humour. And so it just feels completely apt that we should at last be doing a song that gently acknowledges his stardom. Probably need a little bit of a sectional.
I stopped drinking 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago now. The journey now at this stage is amazing really. I have no problem with alcohol anymore. What I have got is the aftermath. Somehow or another is incredible bouts or stages of crippling anxiety and depression, and trying to build the post-alcohol identity and reintegrate socially.
I think recovery is all about getting back to where you want to be. If you've come adrift or you've fallen somewhere in your life, however you're looking back at a point in your life where you want to be, recovery for me is getting back to that stable point.
For me, it's to sort of start following new pathways and to try and think differently outside of sort of my drinking box, if you know what I mean.
In recovery, I suppose you are creating a void by changing your habits, whatever that might be, and therefore into that void, I suppose, if something doesn't fit or fill, then you are feeling cast adrift.
So I would say that recovery is perhaps an invitation to wear masks, and that music is a way of demasking yourself, because often within the musical creative process you're having to expose a sound and expose your inner creative ideas.
So I started working with BDP in 2008, and I was a group worker, so delivering group treatment programs for people. About 5 years in, I was starting to get a bit burnt out. I was running out of words to use in group. I was noticing that we were seeing the same people come through the groups. I noticed that they would often struggle to find new words to describe their experiences, and I was thinking, this is really hard for people because they go around the cycle of change and they end up in the same chair with the same group worker, doing the same sheets and looking at the same topics. I'm so convinced of the link between music and using drugs, alcohol, whatever you want to call it. Like, as a musician, I know a ton of people playing music in Bristol who've struggled with alcohol, struggled with drugs, some who don't play anymore, some who've sold all their instruments, meaning to buy them back. You know, I've had friends who've sold their instruments, meaning to buy them back, and it's just heartbreaking. So that really drove me, and it still does.
So I think initially Sophie and I had a sleepless night the night before because we didn't know quite what was going to come in through the door, and we were delighted when we had about 10 to 15 musicians of all different levels and abilities, some who'd never even tapped a drum before. And what was apparent right from that first rehearsal was people were used to playing by themselves in the bedrooms, but not necessarily together in a group. So the first task was to just get people to listen and to play together.
Yes, it ticked absolutely every box. That very first time, I thought this is what I've been waiting for, to fill that void that's been left by not playing music and all the other things that had been filling that void in my life in the years previously.
Good. Okay. So he'll go. Get away, you bastard. Now bend off.
Well, I first heard about the Recovery Orchestra via a BBC News article that my wife told me about. I wanted to get back into playing music after 3 decades. This opportunity that the orchestra seemed to be saying in this article was, we are open to people coming along who would like to pick up that thread again, you know, that musical thread.
I learnt for 3 months at school when I was 11, but then unfortunately the instruments teacher left to get married, and so I didn't pick it up for 55 years. When I was at my lowest ebb, I lost myself. I didn't know who I was, I lost my identity. I didn't have anything that was mine, but playing an instrument would have been mine, and I wouldn't have allowed that to have been taken away from me.
Music, whether you're performing music or you're listening to music, the very fact that something is happening at a particular time collectively is phenomenally powerful. You are creating a moment in time that will never happen again collectively with other people, which is just so powerful. Over the course of this year, where a lot of us have been starved of that, to be part of it again is amazing.
I've always loved the way music makes me feel, and I think what I've learned in the last few years with orchestra is how wonderful it is to play and sing with other people.
It's never been the sort of thing I like doing, so going into a room full of people I don't know, and the first few weeks were petrifying, but you know, you get past that, don't you? Getting to know a group of people, and it was a group of people who generally melded very well. It just seemed to work.
Terrified at first, really, because of the expectation outweighing the event. Orchestra, well, am I going to be a part of that? I can't read. I don't really know anything about that style. I play pop. So I was very concerned about being able to fit into it. The way John's done it has made it so it doesn't matter how good you are or whether you're a complete and utter beginner, it's about taking part and getting involved. So we've got people that have come along that have never played an instrument before, and they're getting involved, and that's what it's about, really.
At the time when it started, I remember I wasn't in a good place, so I wasn't going to anything at that point. And then they did a performance at a place called Cumber in St Paul's, and I went along to that to see it, and actually joined in with some of the singing because I could just, yeah, that was easy to do because you can just read the words, and it just hit me. It was so emotional that I just went, right, I'm joining the orchestra now, that's it. You can try and stop me.
Richard, would you like to take a solo, sir, on G Blues?
You know, everybody listens to John, he knows what he's doing, so just follow what he says and then it all erupts.
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
Beautiful painting that starts with just a sketch and ends up, you know, full colour.
A lovely idea came from Hamilton, our clarinetist, to do a Champs-Élysées, a gypsy jazz swing piece. And that was a gift for me as an arranger. I thought, right, okay, because we have Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra musicians joining us, and then to give Hamilton that spotlight and that ability to step into the limelight, which is lovely because he's quite a quietly spoken gent, and to see him just speak full-throatedly through the clarinet is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It was later in life, I was doing the festival circuit really, that I had became a clown, and I had a mentor who travelled around with juggling balls and a clarinet, and that, he said, was all you needed. But I was doing my drinking years, and I never really was dedicated and learned, so all I did was learn some tunes, some jolly tunes to busk outside the off licence. I've improved so much since then on the clarinet, just having something to really want to do and to practice. And he's been able to give me something a little more challenging each time, so I don't even know it's happening half the time. I've had the clarinet maybe 20 years, and in 2 years or less I've learnt more than I did in that time on the clarinet. That was a dream come true. It was like walking on air, having all those people behind me like that, and the parts written to enhance what I was doing. Really felt I was lifted off my feet like a bird standing in the sea and the waves lifting you. It was a marvellous experience.
So we're dedicating this concert to Wayne, to Will and to Karen. All of them represent really diverse reasons for getting involved, and we were privileged to have them part of this orchestra and our choir for a long time. Wayne was really good at networking, recruited lots of players for us. Will was an amazing musician, just waxed lyrical about music, what it meant to him, how it impacted his recovery, how it kept him grounded, how reconnecting with music was so important to him after having had quite a difficult part of his life. Karen was the founder member of this orchestra. She represents someone who had never played music before, had never played in a choir before, so that label of being a musician, being called a musician, and being called a singer was so important to her. We miss Wayne, Will and Karen, and this is for them.
So it's great how those things flow.
Can I do a quick tune? Charles, give me an E major. Can you come up with something that expresses the feeling? So tired and sick might be sort of F, T, G, 2, 3, 4, F, rhythm, go! I think lockdown has been a particularly isolating experience for this community. So we knew that one part of this story, this musical narrative, would be about just the treadmill of that feeling of isolation. Onto the treadmill at various different points, and over the top of that you have a sobbing solo. And then from that we can move into a place of reconnection, and having had quite a busy overlapping texture, we go into a really strong groove where everybody's saying the same thing but are given the chance to have some freedom within that.
At every orchestra practice rehearsal we have a check-in at the beginning, and people say, "Oh, I'm all right. Oh, yeah, I'm all right, quite well," or "I'm tired," or whatever. But by the end, when we check out, everyone's mood is way high. But it's every time makes you feel better.
I can't explain how. I don't sort of feel those things like some people do. It just worked, and I looked forward to going, and I think that's all it takes, really, isn't it?
I often have great expectations of what I think my recovery should be like, and am often in a place of disappointment. And yet, when I sing or play with the orchestra, that is not the case.
Chance to get away from the real world for a few hours, and it makes me feel at one again, because it's been such a long time since I played in a group, and that's something I used to do day in, day out as a job. There's been times where I've tried to engage in it and things in life have sort of got in the way, but having this sort of construction of, you know, it's important to me, and it's constructive what I'm doing with the orchestra, so it gives me a little bit of a kick up the bum, if you like.
I think it just helps people to be and not have pressure, and just to be able to express themselves in a way that nothing else, you know, you don't need to sit down and talk to someone for 2 hours or something, you know, you don't have to have that kind of, it's just a different way, a creative way of being and expressing yourself.
The orchestra was enabling me to separate and find the thing that's not harmful but actually beneficial, the music. And you know, it was waiting for me to discover it, and I never realised that.